Why are people trying to cross our southern border, and what role did we play in them feeling like they had no other choice but to flee their home country? Guatemala edition. Between October 2023 and September 2024, border agents encountered over 200,000 people from Guatemala. Now for some perspective. In 1944, Guatemalan dictator Jorge Ubico was forced to resign, followed by a coup that ousted his successor, General Federico Ponce, which paved the way for a democratic government modeled on FDR's New Deal. And the next 10 years saw the beginnings of a successful independent economy. The U.S. labeled this as a communist threat and freaked out over the possibility that neighboring countries might be inspired to do the same, and the fact that our interests in the American-owned United Fruit Company, which had a lot of land in Guatemala, were threatened, made U.S. intervention imminent. So the CIA carried out a successful coup of their own, overthrowing democratically elected President Jaco Arbenz and installing a military dictatorship under Colonel Carlos Castillo Armas, reversing many of Arbenz's reforms and suppressing any opposition. For the next 35 years, Guatemala saw civil war, U.S.-backed military dictatorships, U.S.-trained death squads, 200,000 indigenous protesters slaughtered or disappeared. Basically, Mayan genocide that we funded and engineered. Since the end of the Cold War, democracy has slowly returned to Guatemala, but it is definitely a fragile democracy right now, with a lot of the same military players throughout the years of civil war still trying to undermine progress, and current President Bernardo Arevalo, elected in 2023. While he's backed by indigenous groups and the international community, his opposition still controls most of Guatemala's government. Half of the country still lives below the poverty line, with corruption, wealth hoarding by elites who block any kind of reform, and widespread drug gang violence, especially in cities, being the norm. Guatemala is still recovering from decades of US-backed repression. What can we do now? We can raise awareness of the fact that we backed a coup that led to genocide. We can support indigenous and grassroots movements. We can donate to legal defense funds protecting indigenous leaders being targeted by elites, as well as members of the Democratic Socialism Semilla Party, of which their current president is a member, and push for continued US support of President Arevalo's anti-corruption reforms. We can oppose immigration policies that criminalize Guatemalan migrants. Bear in mind that many of their elites are connected to the same military, business, and political networks that were empowered by the brutal dictatorships we backed. And while we can never repay Guatemala for the role we've played in turning their country into a virtual hell on earth for decades, we owe them a lot.